Good afternoon, students. I hope all of you are doing good and I hope your preparation is going fine. Welcome to the Analyst. This is 2nd of March 2024 and we are here to discuss important articles from The Hindu and the Indian Express. Now, the handout of this session is there in the description box. You may utilize it to streamline your current affairs preparation. Now, coming to the table of contents. The first topic of today is India's economic growth. Second topic is in relation to the postal ballot. Third topic, a very important one, is in relation to International Big Cat Alliance. Fourth topic is in relation to News Broadcasting and Digital Standard Authority. And last but not the least is in relation to Improvised Explosive Device, that is IED. So coming on to the first topic. The first topic is in relation to India's economic growth. Now, India's GDP for quarter 3 has increased to 8.4%, which is a very big number. Now, in relation to General Studies Paper 3, Indian economy and issues relating to it, India's economic growth becomes very important, right? Now, if we have to discuss about the topic, at least we know that 8.4% has been the growth rate of India in quarter 3, which is ending in December of 2023, right? Now, the question is it important for our civil services examination? My answer would be that quarter by quarter data are not very important for a civil services examination. The yearly GDP data is very important. But here, this data becomes even more important than that. There is a very specific reason to it. Now, Indian economy, you can see that it grew by 8.4% in quarter 3, right, ending in December. But simultaneously, one more thing was happening. 4 economies, primarily the 2 ones, that is UK and Japan, plus your Ireland and Finland as well, they are in technical recession, right? And not just these 2, that is your UK and Japan, but 18 other countries are in the fear of getting into technical recession. So they are at the brink of being into a technical recession, right? 18 other economies in the whole world. So, where the whole world is looking towards a potential global recession, Indian economy is robust, maintaining its stance, growing strongly, and it's growing at 8.4%, which is the quarter ending December, right? And for the whole year, that is 2023-2024, now the GDP projections has been upward of 7.5%, which is again a very big number. And in contrast to the world economy, where even US is fearful of moving towards a technical recession, Indian economy is doing very well. Now, in relation to this, what we need to understand is what are the factors which have contributed to such economic robustness of India. So let us look towards some of the factors and some other key details of India's economic growth also we'll be witnessing after that. Okay, so first factor is the capital expenditure thrust. Now, I would like to talk about this very specifically because the current government, it is focusing on capital expenditure a lot. So what happened was that during COVID-19, right, in the year 2020, when Indian economy went into a massive countrywide lockdown, our government had few choices. The first choice which the government had was to provide free ration, free money, or let's say put money directly in the hand of people so that the consumption would increase. I'll repeat the story once again. In 2020, when the COVID lockdown happened, after that our country wanted to recover. Our economy wished to be recovered. And what were the steps government took? Government had few options. First option which the government had was putting money directly in the hands of people. So that if we put money directly in the hands of people, people will start spending the money and consumption expenditure will go up. Our economy will also propel and prosper. That was the first choice. Second choice was to go for massive road construction, to go for massive highway construction, to go for massive infrastructure development. And we use one word for it, that is to go for maximum capex, that is capital expenditure. Now, why this was one of the option? Because if capex happens, right, many contractors would be getting a lot of money and contractors would be subletting the contracts as well. They will be giving jobs to millions of people, laborers, right? So laborers would be earning money, and while they are earning money, so thousands and lakhs of families in our country, they'll be getting money and they'll be consuming goods and services. So indirectly, multiplier effect would be seen. That is, the government would be putting 100 crores in the capital expenditure, benefit to the tune of 1000 crores to the economy could be seen. So that was the second option. Now the question should be, which option did the government choose? So government chose a mix of both the options. Government went for the first option as well, but government went for targeted delivery. Government did not give money to all. Government gave money to the farmers. Government gave money to the poor people, right? So targeted delivery, direct benefit transfer was there. Targeted direct benefit transfer was there. And government went for massive capital expenditure, right? So because of that, government's massive capital expenditure, the Sagarmala you see, this Bharatmala you see, industrial corridors being built, right? There's food parks being built, mega food parks being built, right? All those things are building towards capital expenditure thrust, and why the reason is that they are leading to multiplier effect, which ultimately boosts our economy and economic growth. So this is one major reason. Another reason is our country saw a good monsoon. So for that, our agriculture sector also got some prosperity and it contributed more to the GDP, right? Now, in relation to the companies, right? Now, I'll tell you the data first and then we'll discuss about these companies' aspect. So in the year 2023, right, the average daily new companies registration was 622. So 622 companies registered on an average daily in 2023. And if we compare it with the data of 2018, just 5 years back, 395 was the average daily company registration rate, right? So that means companies registration on a daily basis, on an average, it has increased, right? And it has almost doubled, right? This shows ease of doing business in our country has increased. And it has also contributed instrumentally to our economic growth. And of course, accelerated credit growth. So credit being given to the private sector, credit being given to the business sector, it has increased rampantly. Moving towards formalization of the economy after demonetization, after coming up of the GST, we are heavily moving towards formalization of the economy. Even still, we say that 90% of our economy is informal, but still, path towards a movement and transition towards formalization has been there. And we are on that path definitely. Export sector boom, definitely our exports increased. And our imports also reduced to an extent. Right now also still we are importing billions of worth of goods from China, but imports have declined over a period of time. And we have reduced dependence on those foreign made products. Of course, because of Atmanirbhar Bharat Abhiyan, right? And we wanted to make our production sector robust. That is why we came up with this production linked incentive scheme as well, right? It contributed heavily to this export sector boom, still contributing. And government initiatives, whether it be for social sector, economic, governance, infrastructure sector, it heavily increases your government expenditure, which is a very important component of the GDP, right? So that is also a very important factor. And manufacturing sector thrust. So again, production linked incentive and various other initiatives launched by the government for specific industries, right? So now recently, few days back, 1 week back, there was a very big conclave expo happening in New Delhi in relation to textiles, right? So these kind of things, these are all the factors which have cumulatively transpired and led to India's economic growth to such a great height, right? Whereby the world is seeing a global recession, but India's economy is growing very, very strongly. So all of these reasons, along with many other factors, have contributed towards India's economic growth. Now let us see that what is our vision, what we want to achieve. So according to PM's Panch Pran, that is 5 woes, which is to be completed by 2047, which is the 100 when we are completing 100 years of our independence. First Pran, the first woe which we have taken is that India is to become a developed country in the next 25 years by 2047. India is to become a developed country, right? Also, the remaining pledges, of course, includes removing any sign of servility. Now, this is a task for you. This is a homework for you. You tell me in the comment section, what do you mean by servility, right? I've discussed it in one of the previous analysts as well, but you tell me what do you mean by servility, right? So we have to take pride in our heritage, unity, and fulfilling our duties as citizens. So these are the Panch Pran which our Prime Minister, has talked about, which are to be completed by 2047 when we complete 100 years of our independence, right? So this is where we want to go by 2047. This is the vision which we are having in mind. Now talking about the data, hardcore data. Indian economy, as we all know, it is the 5th largest economy in the world. Now here it is written $3.7 trillion. It is the GDP of our country, right? But there have been various reports, I'm very sure that you must have read, that Indian economy has crossed now $4 trillion mark, right? Now it's not formal yet, but still the data talk about it, right? But formally, if you have to say, $3.7 trillion is the GDP of our country, right? Now, if you're talking about GDP a lot, right, I hear a lot of students discussing about GDP, but they do not really know what is GDP, right? GDP, of course, you understand the full form, gross domestic product. It's the gross value of goods and services, final goods and services. Mind you, it's the gross value of the final goods and services being produced within the domestic territory of a country in a financial year. That is gross domestic product. But what is the methodology for it? So we use expenditure method in India to calculate the GDP of our country, right? But there has been change in methodology. So post 2015, so 2015 we changed the methodology. Earlier we used to calculate GDP at factor cost. Now we have started calculating GDP at market prices. So what changes when we were calculating factor cost and market price? What changes in it, right? So once we are calculating it at market price, that means in factor cost we are adding net indirect taxes. Then we are moving towards market price, right? So now in our GDP we have started including net indirect taxes. Net indirect taxes means the indirect taxes minus indirect subsidies, right? So that is net indirect taxes. We have started including these net indirect taxes, and now we are achieving our GDP at market price. So whatever GDP numbers we see, that is GDP at market price numbers, right? And of course, I told you expenditure method we are using. What are the components of expenditure method? Because components, if you know, then you will know what are the things which basically make our GDP. What are the things which contributes towards increasing our GDP, right? The first amongst them is consumption, of course, and that is C. Second is investment expenditure. First is consumption expenditure. Second is investment expenditure. Third is government expenditure. And fourth is exports minus imports, right? So all those things combined give us our GDP data. I hope this is very, very clear to all of you. And India's economic growth, this topic is crystal clear in your mind. Now coming on to the second topic, that is in relation to the postal ballots, right? Now the postal ballots would be allowed only for those aged 85 or above. This rule has been changed just recently. Now in relation to GS paper 2 Indian polity and governance, this topic becomes important. Now the government has essentially changed the rule and they have increased the eligibility to 85 years from the previous limit which was of 80 years, right? So previously the limit was 80 years. Now the rule has changed the eligibility, and 85 years or above elderly, they can cast postal ballot. Now your question would be, sir, what is postal ballot? So postal ballot, first of all, it is also known as absentee ballot or absentee voting, right? So what happens in this absentee voting, as the name might suggest, that in this case, electors cast their ballots through the help of mail. So electors use mail to cast the ballot rather than going in person at the polling station. So rather than directly walking and going to the polling station in the physical sense, they put the ballot in the form of a mail, postal mail, right? So through post, they send the ballot, they cast their ballot, they cast their votes. That is what we call as postal voting or absentee voting. Now, of course, it is useful for individuals who are unable to vote in person due to variety of reasons. Variety of reasons might include if they are away from their home constituency, if they are facing any level of disability, or they are engaged in any of the essential services on the election day, right? In those cases, postal ballot might be allowed. Now let us know what are the technical eligibilities in relation to this postal ballot. So eligibilities are in the cases of four categories. First category is the service voters. Second is absentee voters. Third is electors on election duty. Fourth is electors under preventive detention. Right now, coming on to the service voters. So members of armed forces or paramilitary forces or government employees who are deployed in election duty from the far from the home constituencies, all these people come under the service voters. They are eligible for postal ballots. Or absentee voters, those who are unable to vote in person for the reasons like they are away from the home constituency due to any work, illness or disability. In those cases, they are eligible. Right, if they are on election duty, so all the government officials, the polling staff, assigned duties far from the polling stations from their own, right? So which is not at the polling station of their own constituency. If they are at some other constituency, some other polling station, they might be eligible for postal ballot. Or those electors who are under preventive detention. So those who have been detained under the preventive custody orders during the election period, they are eligible for postal ballots. I hope eligibility is very, very clear to all of you. Now the significance and the issues concerning it, right? So significance is that eligible voters, they can exercise their franchisee, and when they are unable to vote in person. So what does it do? It first of all expands the accessibility of the electoral process for the voters, right? It makes the voting process more inclusive and our democracy more representative. That is why postal ballots are appreciable and it might be a good step ahead, right? So postal ballot absentee voting, it might be a logical and good way ahead again to make our democracy more representative and to make our election process more inclusive, right? But there are certain issues to it as well. Several experts point out that there can be vote buying. Vote buying might be easy in case of postal ballots because of course it can be fabricated in transit also. The freedom of voting and secrecy might be impacted. Right now, how secrecy might be impacted. So who knows that there is no tampering to the postal ballots? While the post is in transit, who knows that there is no tampering, right? So that is a potential issue. Secrecy might be impacted in that case, right? Also, reliability. So the reliability is questionable in this case, and there can be a delay in the postal service. Because of that, there will be delay in the election process as well, which will be again very, very costly for our democracy, for our country, for the government as well, right? So there are some issues concerning postal ballots as well, but we must understand there are significance related to it as well. And our motive should be to do away and solve these issues and to solidify the significances. I hope this postal ballot topic is also very clear to all of you. Now moving on to the third topic, again a very, very important topic, that is International Big Cat Alliance. Now India is to establish International Big Cat Alliance to protect the big cats in our country and throughout the world. Now in relation to General Studies Paper 3 Environment and Ecology, this International Big Cat Alliance becomes very, very important. Okay. So first of all, let us understand what is this IBCA, International Big Cat Alliance. It is a global alliance, of course. The purpose is to conserve the world's 7 main big cats. Now, who are the 7 main big cats of the world? First is, of course, tiger. Then king of the jungle, that is lion. Then a leopard, snow leopard, puma, then jaguar and cheetah. So all these are 7 big cats. To conserve them, to protect them, to protect their habitat, alliance, international alliance is set up by India, that is International Big Cat Alliance, right? So what will this alliance do? It will provide a platform for all the member nations where they can share their knowledge, they can share their expertise, experiences, and they can support each other for recovery efforts in potential habitats, right? So potential habitats can be conserved. Overall, if simply I want to say, all these countries, they will share knowledge and expertise with each other with the sole aim of conservation and protection of these 7 main big cats and for their prosperity as well, right? Now coming on to the membership of this particular alliance. Now membership, it is open to the 96 range countries, right? It is open to the 96 range countries which are in the range of the 7 big cat habitats. Now, it contained the natural habitat of these big cats, that is the 96 strange countries. It is open. The question is it not open to the other countries? Yes, it is definitely open to the other countries as well. Open to other various conservation organizations, scientific organizations, various businesses and corporates also who are interested in supporting this cause of protection of big cats, right? So all those other countries and organizations can also be a part of this alliance. And so far, how many countries have given their written consent? 16 countries have given their written consent. And amongst others, 9 international organizations have also given their consent, including your IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, then WWF as well, right? We have given the consent to, of course, join the alliance. I hope this membership and about the alliance, it is very, very clear to you. Now coming on to the governance structure, that how this alliance would be governed. So first, there would be a General Assembly in the alliance, right? That General Assembly, of course, will include all the member countries, right? There would be one more council as well. Now, that council will include at least 7, but not more than 15 members. So, minimum there will be 7 members, maximum there will be 15 members. So, first, okay, let us write this down. There will be one General Assembly at the top, right? Now, that General Assembly will elect a council, right? That will be a council which will include 7 to 15 members, right? And their term will be for 5 years, right? And upon the recommendation of the council, the General Assembly will appoint IBCA Secretary General. So on the recommendation of the council, the IBCA Secretary General will be recommended. So council ultimately would be recommending to the General Assembly, and a Secretary General will be appointed of the International Big Cat Alliance for a specific term which might be given ahead in the future, right? And of course, there will be one secretariat as well. I hope the governance structure, the governing structure of this International Big Cat Alliance, again, it is very, very clear to all of you, right? Now, moving on to the next topic, again, an important topic, that is News Broadcasting and Digital Standard Authority, NBDSA. Now, this News Broadcasting and Digital Standard Authority has taken an action against the 3 news channels for violating the Code of Ethics. So, in relation to General Studies Paper 2, Indian Polity, Statutory, Regulatory and Quasi-Judicial Bodies, this topic becomes important, right? So, first of all, what is this News Broadcasting and Digital Standard Authority? It is an independent body which is set up by NBDA, that is News Broadcasters and Digital Association, with the main purpose of being a representative of private TV channels. And not private TV channels in general, but news channels, right? So private television news channels, other current affairs and digital broadcasters as well, right? So again, it is a body which represents these private news channels, right? TV channels, current affairs and digital broadcasters. That is your NBDSA, right? So for a regulatory authority, representative authority in relation to the private TV news channels created amongst themselves only. So News Broadcasting and Digital Standards Authority. Now, it is funded entirely by the members. So government is not giving any backing to the organization. It is funded by the members itself, the private members. 26 news and current affairs broadcasters are a part of it, which includes in total of 119 news and current affairs channels. So 26 broadcasters are there, more than 119 news and current affairs channels are part of it and its members. Now, what is the main aim and function of this News Broadcasting and Digital Standards Authority? The function is to promote, protect and secure the interests of the parties who are involved in this authority, including the right to freedom of speech and expression. Of whom? Of the news broadcasters, of the digital news media and other related entities of this Digital Standards Authority. So main purpose is protect, promote and secure their own interest, to protect their right to freedom of speech and expression, of the broadcasters themselves, of the digital news media and other related entities. That is the sole purpose why this News Broadcasting and Digital Standard Authority has been set up. Now let us understand the composition of it. So first, they are having a chairperson. Now, chairperson is the most important person in this digital standard authority. The current chairperson is the eminent jurist A.K. Sikri, right, who's currently serving as the chairperson, is a former Supreme Court judge as well. So chairperson will be an eminent jurist, right? And other members will also be there, such as news editors or those who are experienced in other fields, for example, law, education, literature, public administration, which will be nominated by majority of the board. So majority of the members of the board, they will vote and select other members, and there will be one eminent jurist who will be serving as a chairperson. That is about the composition of this News Broadcasting and Digital Standards Authority. Now coming on to the function of it. So function is that they might initiate proceedings on its own, and they can issue notice or take action on any matter which falls under their regulations. So they have made a set of regulations on the matters which fall under their jurisdiction. So any matter falling in their jurisdiction comprising of any of their member broadcasters, they have the power to initiate proceedings on their own. Suo motu proceedings, right? Or also they can initiate proceedings if there is any complaint which is referred to this digital standard authority by the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, by any of the other governmental body, or by anyone else through their own website. So anyone goes to their website, files any complaint, then also they can initiate proceedings. If Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, they file a complaint to the authority, they can also initiate proceedings, or any other governmental entity also file a complaint, proceeding might be initiated by this authority, right? So I hope this News Broadcasting and Digital Standard Authority again is very, very clear to all of you. Now moving on to the last topic of today, that is improvised explosive device. Now, at least 10 people were injured in the recent suspected IED blast which happened in the Bangalore Whitefield. Right? Now, this is a very important news in relation to that improvised explosive device we need to understand, because we keep on hearing it in relation to our internal security sector. Internal security, which is a part of our general studies paper 3, which is by this topic becomes important. We need to understand what is this improvised explosive device, right? So first of all, this is an unconventional weapon. Improvised explosive device, as the name is suggesting, it is an explosive device which is of improvised nature. Right? So it is an unconventional explosive weapon. Of course, it can take any form and it can be activated in a variety of ways, and it is used by criminals, vandals, terrorists, suicide bombers and insurgents. Again, the intention is of course to cause harm of life of different people. So again, to disrupt harmony and cause harm, this improvised explosive device is used. Unconventional, used by various criminals, terrorists, suicide bombers and insurgents. Right? It can take many forms. So it is not that this improvised explosive device, it will be just in one form. It can be in variety of forms. It can be a small pipe bomb also. It can be a sophisticated device also, which will be capable of causing massive damage and loss of life. Right? So it can cause a lot of damage and loss of life, and its form and shape can be any. Right? So any small product can be made, and an improvised explosive device might be under it. Right? So we can't suspect any explosive IED based on its shape, right? And the extent of damage, of course, it will vary to the content which is there inside it. So based on the size, the construction and the placement, whether it incorporates high explosive or propellant or not, based on that, the extent of damage will vary. So some IED devices are there which causes very less damage. Just the sound is there, sound is very high, and also very little damage is caused. Some improvised explosive devices are there which cause a lot of damage to the life of people, which might cause deaths as well in certain cases, right? So it varies based on different dimensions, that is size and construction and the placement as well, right? What are the elements of IED? That is very important. So there are variety of components we'll be seeing in the next slide as well through a diagram. But let us see the name. One is initiator, one will be the switch, which will be the component, main charge, power source, and a container. So all these will be the elements of IED. And it might be surrounded by or packed with additional material, which we call as enhancements, which can be your nail, glass, metal fragments, which are designed to increase the amount of shrapnel which is propelled by the explosion. The shrapnel is metal components which comes out with the explosion, right? Which comes out with the explosion of a device. This metal components, that is what we call as shrapnel, right? Now let us see with the help of a diagram over here, right? So here we see this is your improvised explosive device. This whole thing which we see, that is the container. These small metal components which we see, that is the shrapnel, right? This is the main charge, which includes the homemade explosive, which can be your triperoxide, right? This is the booster, this is the initiator, this is the switch, and this is the power source, right? So this is how your improvised explosive, it can be in a suitcase also, right? It can be in a book also. It can be in different other forms as well. It can be in a package also, right? So materials used, now that is important. What are the materials used for this improvised explosive device? So many commonly available materials, which can be your fertilizer, several kinds of fertilizers, your gunpowder, hydrogen peroxide are used as explosive material in the IEDs. So this triperoxide, here it is written, then Semtex military explosion it is used, the dynamite for commercial explosive it is used, different kind of chemicals are used, right? So explosives contain fuel and a oxidizer, that is very important. One component is fuel, one component is an oxidizer, which provides the oxygen which is needed to sustain the reaction which happens while explosion is happening, right? So I hope the materials under this explosives in the IED is also clear to all of you. So this improvised explosive device, at least we should know, whenever we hear about it in the news channels, in the TVs, in the newspapers, we should know what it is made of, what is the harming, causing capacity of this particular IED, and what is the potential disbenefits which we get from it, right? Or the disadvantages in relation to it, right? Because it is important for an internal security, especially purposes, right? Okay, so I hope this lecture was useful for you. So all the very best and have a nice day. Good luck to all of you.